Alright, so today, bear with me, I'm going to try something new. I'm going to try walking and talking, because what better way to promote health and fitness while talking about the information, but also doing the activity. You know, actions speak louder than words. So I thought to myself, okay, why don't I just see if I can make educational fitness content while I do some form of fitness or activity to educate and inspire at the exact same time. So this YouTube video is going to be primarily regarding insulin and carbohydrates, how you should approach these two things when it comes to your fat loss goals, when it comes to building muscle, when it comes to your goals of whether it be leaning out, like I said, bulking, cutting, or just maintaining. And if insulin is such a bad thing, or if carbohydrates are such a bad thing, are carbohydrates the things that are promoting you or stopping you from losing the fat that you want to lose, etc. But before we get into all of that, make sure to subscribe if you're new, like, share the video to help the algorithm or whatever this whole channel does. I mean, the platform. But yeah. So before we get in, I also want to update you guys a little bit on my personal fat loss journey and some of the goals I've been hitting recently. So I originally started at 170. Some of you know my story, some of you don't. I was like 177 pounds, got into the gym, and did it completely wrong, where I kind of got overweight, and I just ended up taking the bulk a little bit too far, where I ended up just getting overall fat instead of, you know, lean and muscular like most people's goals are. Oh my god, it stinks. It's walking beside my trash cans. So then I had to kind of basically completely restart my fitness goals, to the point where I had to relearn everything I thought I knew and kind of approach it in a totally different way. Oh, it's kind of windy. I don't know if this is good. Maybe I just walk up and down my driveway while I talk, because I live in the middle of nowhere and it's kind of windy out on the road, so I think the microphone is just going to be messed up and you guys are going to be barely able to hear me. Or, no, whatever, I'll just go up and down the driveway. So yeah, anyway, got to 205 pounds, kind of was a little bit overweight, and I was like, yeah, this is not gonna work as I want it to work. So I had to completely relearn everything that I thought I knew, start from scratch, and basically cut. My goal was to cut 40 pounds. So to go from 205 to like 165, and then get absolutely super shredded, super diced, and super lean, and then main gain from there. So now to get into and then main gain up to, like, you know, 200 pounds is like my goal, like 200 pounds, 11% body fat. And right now I'm finally at 173.5. So I'm very close to my goal of 170. I'm gonna assess how I look at 170, and then if needs be, then I will go down to 165 if I want to get to that like last bit of leanness. But I feel like that'll just be like an unhealthy body fat percentage, and I'm not into like competing or anything like that. I'm just into inspiring and educating with my own results, and then provide you guys with the information that I learn on the way. So I'm at like 173.5 right now. I'm at like, I'd say 10%, 11% body fat. And I'm pretty happy with the physique. I just need to lose these last couple 3 pounds, because I have like a little bit of lower belly fat that I want to get rid of just before I start main gaining again. So to explain the whole topic of this video a little bit, okay, that's enough updating about myself and my journey. Now to provide you guys with some value on why you actually clicked on this video. So as we all know, there's this whole notion behind, do carbs make me fat? Should I stop eating carbs to lose weight? My insulin resistance is unknown. I don't know what to do with it. And basically, I'm having a hard time losing fat and I'm stuck. So, what you need to do, or what you need to understand, is the higher your body fat percentage is, the less insulin resistant you are. And insulin is basically like a key to allow glucose into your muscle cells. So, when it comes to being overweight or at a higher body fat percentage, what I typically recommend to people, and what I typically like to advise, is regardless of what macronutrient we're talking about, the end goal is to, if your end goal is fat loss, is to remain in a calorie deficit for as long as possible, which is your intake of energy, because you expend energy through, like I am right now, walking, lifting, working out, being alive, digesting food, and then you also input energy through eating and drinking. Though I would advise, if you're not already, just stop drinking your calories. That's the easiest way. That was like the first way that I eliminated my first 10 pounds, is by just completely cutting off caloric drinks and sticking to 0 calorie drinks. Right when I did that, in like a month, 10 pounds just flew off of me. But yeah, going back to the food aspect. So of course you need to be in a calorie deficit. That's numero uno. But what's going to help you stay in that calorie deficit is what we're going to talk in much more detail in this video. So now, when it comes to your carbohydrates, what I want to tell you guys is that certain carbohydrates are higher and lower on the glycemic index scale. So this is basically like a chart with how your food reacts, or how your body, reacts to certain different types of foods. So whether that be higher glycemic foods like white bread, right? That'll spike the shit out of your blood sugar, and then it'll crash it relatively fast, causing you to be hungrier faster. And the goal when we're trying to lose fat is to basically prolong the digestive tract, basically prolong or keep you full for longer, so that you're not apt to pick up another, meal, or just keep shoving your face with food and just cause snacking. Because the longer we can keep you full, and the longer that you're satiated, the less likely you're going to overeat. That's basically why Ozempic was created. Ozempic is this new apparent miracle fat loss drug, which basically, to break it down in the most simplest terms, slows down your digestion. So it just basically keeps the food in your digestive tract for a longer period of time, causing you not to be as hungry, which in turn causes you to eat less, which in turn keeps you in a calorie deficit, which in turn causes you to lose fat. So it all just comes down to the calorie deficit, but there's also certain little tricks and things we can keep in mind in order to help us stay in this calorie deficit, like I'm talking about in this video. So now that we know how certain foods rate on the glycemic index, like for example, something low on the glycemic index is steak, for example. It doesn't spike your blood sugar, it's red meat, it's protein, and it'll keep you full for longer. It's not gonna crash your insulin levels. So, like I said, the more your body fat percentage is at a higher level, if your goal is fat loss, the less you should rely on high glycemic index foods, which are typically fast digesting carbohydrates. Cookies, sugary drinks, ice cream, white bread, and stick to, carbohydrates are still fine, but lower glycemic index ones like broccoli, like fruits, vegetables, things of that sort of nature. So now let's go to muscle building. When you're lean now, when you've reached that ideal body fat percentage and you're more insulin resistant, meaning your body can take and use the carbohydrates and the glucose that your body produces through the carbohydrates more effectively, you can use that to your advantage to build muscle, store glucose in your muscle cells, and basically lead to hypertrophy, better brain function, better energy, more energy, and all those sorts of things of nature. But until then, what I like to recommend for people is, okay, if you're, for example, somebody who likes carbohydrates like bread, pasta, rice, potatoes, then don't be eating it with every single meal, especially if you're on the higher side of body fat percentage. But rather, stick to your lower glycemic index foods like proteins, fats, like, meats, nuts, berries, avocados, olive oils in the mornings. You're like breakfast, lunch, and dinner, because it'll keep you, I want to really emphasize this, what I'm about to say right now. It will keep your body from spiking your insulin so high that it won't crash, but it will kind of bring it to base levels. A little bit of spike, obviously, because all food minimally spikes insulin, but then it won't crash your insulin, causing you to be hungry again and overfeed yourself and be stuck in this, you're hungry, you spike your insulin with high glycemic index foods like carbohydrates, and then you crash, and then you're hungry again, and then you're stuck in this wave. But rather, what I suggest is in the morning times, eat your proteins, fats, vegetables, fruits, and whatnot throughout, like breakfast, lunch, early dinner, and then if you have another meal like late dinner, but we'll talk about the late dinner later, so that you're just cruising. Your satiety and your hunger levels aren't like you eat such a high carb meal in the morning, you spike your insulin, and then you are starving because your crash comes in, and then you do it all over again, and you eat again a lot of food. But rather, you eat a little bit of food, proteins and fats mostly, raise your satiety levels, your hunger, and your staying full. And then, fuck, I wish I had like a whiteboard to draw this out. This would be so easy. I need to buy a whiteboard. Somebody buy me a whiteboard and send it to my address. No, don't do that. That's weird. Fuck, I lost my train of thought. Oh yeah. Keep your levels, hunger levels, steady throughout the day. And then right before bed, like 2 hours, like your late dinner if you have one, or if you just have one dinner, then your last meal, have those carbohydrates. Have those bread, pasta, rice, potatoes, all those different things that you're, so in love with eating. This is, by the way, for people that can't control themselves. Like, if you can control tracking your calories, by all means. Have your bread, have your rice throughout the day, have all those things that spike your insulin. And if you can control your hunger levels, then yeah, by all means, just eat what you want when you want. But this is more for those people that have a hard time or don't want to track their calories and have a hard time losing weight. This is the method that I would advise for them. And which is, like I mentioned, have your low GI foods in the morning. Eggs, avocado, some nuts, some berries, some spinach, all these things to keep you full. And then it won't crash your hunger levels. And then you're not going to be at like 2 o'clock saying, oh, I'm starving, and then app for a whole box of cookies and starve yourself. Right? And then right before bed, as your last meal, you know, you have a good full meal, big, healthy, carb-heavy meal to replenish your glycogen storages, to provide you with carbs for energy for the next day. Because you're not just going to go to sleep and then you're not going to have energy because carbs give you energy. They're going to still be in your blood system for like up to 24 hours. So you don't have to worry about that. You're going to have energy for your training, you're going to have energy for your cardio, you're going to have energy for all of that. But the most important thing here is to control your hunger levels. And this is the method that I would advise to help you control your hunger levels. But now, when it comes to trying to build muscle and lean out, I'm going to make a separate video for that. Let me know in the comments below if you guys want me to make this separate video where it's basically talking about why carbohydrates feed your muscle cells if you're lean and help you build more muscle, and if you're overweight, they feed your fat cells. So if you're overweight, this is going to be a little preview trailer. Go lower on the carbohydrates because they're feeding your fat cells if your body fat percentage is up there, and go higher on the carbohydrates if you're leaner, trying to gain more weight, build more muscle, but you're more insulin resistant. So that's like the key little giveaway and trailer for the next video that I might make. Let me know if you guys want that video. I'll make it as soon as possible. And yeah, follow this method. Basically, hopefully this gave you a good understanding. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Love you. Subscribe if you're new. Create more than you consume. Serve others. Love everyone. Peace.